Larry Brill was born and raised in San Jose, California, in the heart of Silicon Valley before anybody knew what Silicon could do. He learned his ABCs at a small Catholic school and went on to get a journalism degree from San Jose State University, and then spent more than 25 years as a TV news anchor in various cities before settling down in Austin, Texas. But all those years in the news trenches provided pages of funny material for his first 2 novels. Live at 5 is a contemporary look at the crazy things that go on behind the scenes of a small-town TV station. The Patter takes that a step further by imagining what TV news would be like if invented by Ben Franklin 250 years ago. Speaking of Ben, Larry's latest novel, Déjà Vu All Over Again, recently won an independent book publisher's Benjamin Franklin Award for Fiction. Larry, what is the most difficult part of your artistic process?
Sticking to a writing schedule is the biggest problem because I have just attention deficit disorder when it comes to actually sitting down and writing. I get distracted by so many different things. I found that I'm really better if I stay on a regular schedule, just like exercise, but I have a hard time actually doing that.
So your latest book is Déjà Vu All Over Again. It is a romantic comedy. It is very funny. What did you hope to accomplish with this particular story besides trying to be humorous?
I think this was an attempt to just give a big hug to everybody who has gotten to be with enough gray hair to be able to look back at their life now and put it in perspective and say there was somebody in their life once upon a time that they're no longer in touch with, that if they could go back, they would want to get in touch with that person again, because that person's, whether it's their smile or their laughter or just the memory of them, has stayed with that person forever. I started out by thinking it was going to be a story about Nate, my hero, finding redemption in finding the girl that he had dumped on the eve of their prom back in high school. But the relationship itself built up to be much more part of the story than I expected. I'm not a plotter. I tend to let the story build. I know where it's going to start and I know where it's going to end, but in between it takes a lot of different angles and there are trails that I follow down. And the finished product was much more a romantic novel than I anticipated when I started out.
Do you think you could have written this book at a younger age in your life?
No way.
So you think the perspective of where you are now, did that help with rounding out the characters and where they are in their lives?
Yes, because the characters are very much in my generation. And so it made it easier for me to really get a sense of what it's like to look back now with perspective, because I think anyone who is my age, because you're younger than I am, but certainly, my generation is reached that point. The baby boomers are starting to look back now at their lives. And just like every other baby boomer around, we're starting to go, oh yeah, now I understand more about this or that or something that I've learned over the years. And so particularly for this book, I think you need to have that perspective. I don't think a younger person could make that up.
So how old were you when you started writing fiction?
When I started writing fiction?
Yes.
I started fiction when I was just a real small kid and started telling lies to my mom. That's the first fiction I can remember. The first thing a serious attempt at writing fiction, I can remember, I have vivid memory of after I was in 8th grade. It was a summer after 8th grade before I got into high school. And I can remember sitting on the curb outside of our house during the summertime. And I was writing out a story that was a total ripoff of the Hardy Boys. But that was my first attempt to actually write a story and create a story.
Did the thought to give up writing ever occur to you?
I have been writing all my life. I had a career as a journalist. So I've been telling stories pretty much as far back as I can remember. And the fiction side, I just get so much joy from it that even if it never sees the light of day, and I've got a stack of stories that, are just tucked away, and nobody is ever going to see that unless they pull it out after I die. But no, I can't imagine not writing. And my wife is someone who she looks at me and says, "You got a good idea for a book, don't you? Because you're much happier today."
So with a background in journalism and now as a life as a fiction writer, how do you think that journalistic background influences you as a fiction writer?
I think the 25 plus years that I spent as a journalist made me very observant about people and their motivations. And I can see a lot of that in my work.
So in your previous book, The Patterer, which took place a couple hundred years ago, how does this book differ not only in the time frame, but in tone from The Patterer?
I think it's very similar in the tone. I think that the main difference between The Patterer and Déjà Vu all over again is not only the fact that that was taking place in the 18th century, but I think that people will relate to the characters more in Déjà Vu all over again because it's contemporary.
Sure.
I had a lot more fun writing The Patterer. Being someone who has always enjoyed history, the research part of that was good. So in that sense, I do the research and I'll find something really, really cool about that time, and then I'll drop that in. And the other thing too is The Patterer, even though it takes place back then, it's really a satire of a lot of things that are going on today. So in The Patterer, people will recognize little bits of like Gilligan's Island, or a Billy Joel song, or the movie Casablanca. There are certain short passages in there that people are going to go, "Oh, that's like Humphrey Bogart," and that was intentional.
Are you going to step back in that time?
Yes, as a matter of fact, the work
As a
that
writer?
the work that I'm doing right now is actually a sequel to The Patterer, and it's about 7 years later. The Patterer takes place in London, and then the sequel, The Printer, takes place in America, and it's right up before the Revolutionary War.
All right, so this next round, we're going to do a lightning round of questions. It's something that we like to do here on Austin Liti Limits. It was inspired by James Lipton from Inside the Actors Studio, which was borrowed from the French journalist Bernard Pivot, and who borrowed it from Marcel Proust. So the first,
And he probably borrowed it from somebody too.
He probably borrowed it from somebody else. So the first question is, what is your favorite word?
Snark.
Snark. What's your least favorite word?
Fake news.
That's a phrase. All right, number 3, what turns you on?
Making people laugh.
That's a good one. What turns you off?
Mean-spirited people.
Yeah, I agree with that one. What is your idea of happiness?
Sitting by a stream, having a picnic with an entire afternoon to daydream about what I'm going to put into my next story.
Excellent. The next question, who's your favorite author?
John Steinbeck.
Excellent. If you could be any character of a well-known novel, who would that be?
I think Don Quixote.
What profession other than your own would you want to attempt?
I'd like to be a Major League Baseball pitcher.
Oh, nice. Excellent. What team? You have a team in mind that you'd want to be a pitcher for?
Oh, San Francisco Giants.
What profession would you least want to do?
Communication director in the Trump White House.
All right, and the final question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the check-in desk?
Here's your ticket. Go to the head of the line. You have won a chance to take the ride all over again.
Excellent. That's a wrap.